on YouTube after 2 months of being focused on the self-integration school. The live stream is back and I am full steam ahead with everything to come for 2026 all the way to 2036. If you're joining the live replay, check the timestamps down below. If it's been a while since we've hung out, then please do forgive me. I've got plenty of life updates to share, and this is going to be a monumental live stream. In summary, just for the first few minutes until people start to join, I have been for the last 9 or 10 months completely immersed in the self-integration school. My 104 book curriculum, 500 videos, 300 of which have already been filmed. For context, YouTube has about 330 videos at this point. That took around 4 years. So if you can contextualize how much work you've seen from me on YouTube and then how much I've been creating for my school, which is the crescendo magnum opus of this entire library, you can imagine how long I have tried to balance between the public and the private. But push came to shove, and the Self-Integration School launched on April the 10th. We had the grand opening retreat. You can check out selfintegrationschool.com for the updated website. It's 95% fully complete. There's 8 videos on there, 8 whole new videos. There's montages of the retreat, there's student stories, there's a full breakdown of the curriculum. Everything is finally more or less in place in the Self-Integration School to finally just chill out a little bit, hang out on YouTube, go back to the old school live stream Q&As, and enjoy teaching in public completely for free and just forming these relationships again. I really do miss it. I mean, again, you got to remember, imagine you're me. For years, I've been in the habit of uploading twice per week, sometimes twice per week, plus a live stream, engaging with community, responding to every single comment, something like 14,000 comments I've left on my own channel. And that's quite rare, especially as you grow to a certain scale. But by necessity, I closed off one-to-one mentorships. I stopped uploading YouTube videos around autumn, September, October last year, and I've been all in on the Self-Integration School. But now the Self-Integration School is finally a real thing. We've got just under 40 active members inside of the school, and it's time to come back onto YouTube. I'm seeing some people in the chat already. Welcome. Good to see some familiar names. 3 right there. Alex, good to see you. Hey, Jordan, good to see you back on YouTube. Hope all is good, mate. Hetty, great to see you as well. Hope you've been well in 2026. Shadow Work Library last year was fantastic. And Gentle Fritz, why hello, it's been a minute. Nice to see and hear you. It has indeed been a minute. Once again, if you're watching the replay, check the timestamps down below and you'll see all the different questions I answer, the different life updates. But we are basically going to just reopen the YouTube space. The candle's out. I've got my nice coconut water. I have got so much to share, and ironically, the candle is standing on the foundation books from the Self-Integration School. So this is very much an integration conversation. I just got finished with a 2.5-hour seminar with my members in the EU call. We had about 15 or so people inside of there, and at 11 p.m., which is just under 2 hours from now, I then have the USA seminar and after party. So what I'm trying to do, even on a busy Sunday, which is all about the Self-Integration School, just rebuild that bridge back to YouTube and get going again. I suppose because, this is a start live stream, I might as well have a clean update about where I've been for those watching the replay. So, what's been happening? As I mentioned, I've been focused on the Self-Integration School, but that isn't the most interesting side of things. Fundamentally, in terms of me as an individual and my personality, I've gone through something of an identity disintegration and a bit of a digital persona death and resurrection, as it were, because I've shifted from someone who did 5 years, nearly 6 years of exclusively one-to-one mentorships to then having the Shadow Work Library last year at a certain level, then wanting to take it to the next level and having to simultaneously withdraw into private so I can build the thing that I know is what I really am, my real creativity, my real passion. But also at the same time, there's like a visible freezing or death of the majority of my kind of digital persona and what you might relate to me as. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you haven't seen me doing my workouts in my home gym, you haven't seen me working behind the scenes on the school, you haven't seen any of me, really. I've just been absent, and that's no big deal. You have your own life. Everything doesn't revolve around me. But for me personally, to go from YouTube being a consistent anchor in the community and the engagements to then I just haven't got the energy to keep it all going. It's been a bit of a weird one. I will be honest. It's so interesting that up there you've got the 100,000 subscriber play button. I got this in autumn last year, and then I more or less hit the 100,000 subscribers, and it was so meaningful, dozens and dozens of hours every week for years, to then be like, okay, time to build the self-integration school, or like really make a significant push in the self-integration school. Um, I'm keeping it brief, but there has been a lot of turbulence within. If people ask me any questions, I can maybe ask and answer questions myself as well. If anyone's interested where I've been, how I've been, before we get into the psychology books, now is the time to ask me the personal questions, and I'll just do maybe a 15-20 minute segment on Jordan and Jordan's update before we get back to the old school psychology books, arguably free therapy, free counseling, free psychology teaching right here on YouTube. I'm just going to bring up the live stream on my live streaming phone down here so I can monitor the chat without touching the screen. There we go. Look at that. Nice, happy man there. He is ready to go. Oh, that's nice. It's nice. It's nice being like, oh, this is where we're at now. There's me in the library, standing over there about 10 minutes ago. See 27 people joining live. Welcome, welcome. Say hello where you are in the world. For the first 15-20 minutes, I'm going to be giving a open floor to any personal questions that people might have of like, where did you go, Jordan? Why did you leave us? Does that mean that you're blah, blah, blah? How about this projection? How about that projection? Are you focused on this, or this? Just feel free to dump your questions in the chat and I will do some rapid fire answering. Hetty says, how many friends made it to the school? By how many friends, do you mean like how many people from the Shadow Work Library last year? If you mean from the Shadow Work Library community, I think we have, I don't know, we have at least 15 people from the Shadow Work Library. Somewhere like 15 to 20 people from my previous community in the Shadow Work Library are in the self-integration school now, with a few people who are planning on joining a little bit later in the year when timing and finances align, which I completely understand. It's a great blessing and a great honor when you've taught people and worked with people for a whole year and you thought like, oh, it's gone quite well and maybe they're finished with the journey, and most people are because a year is a lot of work. But then you've got that small group of people that just want all the books to a fault. Like there's something inside the self-integration school. This is fun. So I have different graduation standards from bronze to silver to gold to platinum integration perfection plus. And the platinum plus integration perfection tier graduation, if you want to spend 2 years inside the self-integration school, 90% seminar attendance. Okay, that's a lot. 2 seminars per week for 2 years, that is a lot, but still, it gets better. 104 core curriculum books, you've read every single one. Every single video, every single exercise, about 500 of them, you've completed all of them. You've also read at least 104 bonus books in 2 years. So this is averaging, again, what is it? 1 book per week is 104 books over 2 years. So 2 books per week pace for 2 years. That is the minimum requirement. And then there are monthly psychological integration essays. We are now doing monthly anthology essay collections inside the self-integration school. It's so cool. There's 38 active members right now, and 21 members plus myself wrote a 1,000-word essay on liminal transformation and neurotic conflicts. And so much is happening. And here I am saying like, oh, let's do a personal update about Jordan. And Jordan's personal update is the self-integration school, because I'm so blended and enmeshed with it in the best way possible, and also some neurotic ways as well. But for now, I'm focused on the good side of things. When I look at the high possibilities of writing all these essays, doing the graduation essays, if you truly want the platinum plus integration perfection graduation standards and all the rewards that come with it, which are quite substantial, um, including having all of your coaching and tuition fees refunded at the end of the journey. Imagine that, thousands of pounds of coaching and tuition, you get it refunded. If you get the absolute perfection of the curriculum, I'm like, you know what? Just take your money back. Yeah, the admission fee isn't included in that, but all the coaching over the 2 years, thousands of pounds. I look forward to refunding at least 1 or 2 people at the end of the next 2 years because they just put in the work like an absolute mad person. You get to create the business that you want, and I know that so much of me has come alive in this process of creating the self-integration school. And I suppose fundamentally, what I'm most interested in doing is taking the lessons from the previous community, the Shadow Work Library, those previous friendships that continue into the self-integration school, and then translating all of that behind the scenes, paid private coaching curriculum community into a YouTube common public square kind of space. So the energy is here right now today between the 2 seminars, EU and USA, those 2 hour seminars. I thought let's try and do at least a 2 hour live stream, kind of do something like the equivalent of a YouTube seminar once per week. That's what we're going to be going for. Seeing the chat now, checking in. Any questions? Lovely to see you again from Sapporo. Sapporo, it's great to see you here as well. You say, it all makes sense. You're juggling a lot. It's really nice you stopped in. How have you been lately? Michael Williams saying, good day, George. Another stolen account says hi. And Hetty says, I love to hear it. How have I been, Sapporo? How have I been lately? Um, so for the last 2 months, I have spent a lot of time doing things that I didn't think I'd be doing over the last 2 months. I launched Self Integration School on April 10th, grand opening retreat, and then it's taken about 2 months to sort through all of the video material, the B-roll, the student interviews, get the website fully updated and relaunched. You can now check it out, selfintegrationschool.com. You will see everything there. That's been more or less all of me. I've had some help from one of my friends with the web development side of things, but all of the editing, all of the writing, just getting it all together, trying to translate what the school is into a public medium has taken a lot of laptop work. I mean, a lot. There's an 8-minute video on that page that I estimate probably took me about 60 hours to put together on the editing timeline because I had to cut through so many incredible moments of stories from my students to then get it into an entertaining, YouTube friendly, you get the idea. Like if you're making a website, you know that those videos are going to be seen by potentially thousands of people. So you want them to really be time efficient and, to a fault. I'm maybe even somewhat perfectionistic about let's make a great experience second by second. So I've done 8 videos like that and they're over on that page and now can finally be like, hey, I can show up on YouTube and say selfintegrationschool.com and then anyone who's curious can go to selfintegrationschool.com and see exactly what I've been like. Um, Transparently, a lot of frustrations. I've still kept up my daily workouts. I think I'm 11 months deep of daily workouts right now, maybe 10 and a half months, 11 months deep of daily workouts. But I stopped the rocking for a while because I've had some foot pain, some heel pain from, unsurprisingly, wearing 45 kilogram weighted vests. That's about 100 pounds for anyone who doesn't use kilograms. Wearing those and doing daily hikes was a little bit hard on my feet. So I'm giving it a little bit of a break, even though I do like the psychological benefit of doing hard things and carrying heavy weight up the hill. It is time to just take a little bit of a physical restoration break. And next week as well is reflection week inside the Self Integration School, where there's no seminars. And I wrote a post actually yesterday in the community that this will be the first weekend, next weekend. Next weekend will be the first weekend where I've taken a full weekend off in 14 months. Like 14 months since I've taken a weekend off, since April 2025, which was my birthday last year. The last time that I took like a proper day off was the half day off on Christmas Day, which was about 6 or 7 hours of festive fun. And then I was back to filming curriculum videos in the evening. And this, I genuinely love this. Like, I really want to create the Self Integration School, but yeah, it's been a hell of a lot of work and some stresses and there's some physical complaints, but ultimately it's worth it. And I feel like my spirit is lifted and I'm happy to just keep on going. And I feel like I'm a bit of a broken record right now. I just keep saying the same words over and over again, those 3 words. But that's reality to me. I mean, what do you expect? I read all these books and I wanted to make a curriculum, and now that the curriculum's kind of there, Sephora, you can't seem to access my page. That is that's concerning. Well, all you need to do, let's see if it works. If you go onto the phone and then we search now, it should completely work. You go to www.selfintegrationschool.com. I hope this works. Otherwise, I've just spent 2 months doing something that doesn't work. Let's see if it works together. Okay, www.selfintegrationschool.com. Nope, it works. It works right there. There you go. Selfintegrationschool.com. You can see that it's working. 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 Psychology books are some of the best of the 104 psychology books in the Self-Integration School, but I didn't always know this. There we go. There we go. It's gonna be, that's the worst presentation possible. Here's my phone screen on a live stream with audio feedback, but that's that's the grand reveal, I guess. Selfintegrationschool.com, all one word, Sephora. It should work for you, and you can see some familiar faces from the Shadowwork Library hanging out in person on the Self Integration Farm, the luxury English mastermind country retreat. We're doing another one in September. If you want to get involved, you got to be inside the Self Integration School. Show up seminars, writing the essays. You get the idea. It's a free retreat to attend. Most people would charge 3 or 4 grand for an event like this, but I do things a bit backwards in Self Integration School, and the whole idea of like, well, if you show up and put in the work, you pay me in more ways than financial ways. So I'm happy to put on a retreat twice per year for the most motivated members, and it's very, very enjoyable. It was such a pleasure to have simultaneously my 30th birthday being the day of launching the school, and having but arguably some of my top students there to really concretize energy. Like I live for this. Oh my god, it's so good. But that's how I've been. That's how I've been. That's how I've been. I'll go back to the chat right now. Let's see what's going on. We'll maybe shift over to psychology questions because all Jordan can say is school, 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 school. So let's talk about some topics. Anonymously Anonymous says, "Whoa, sweet facial hair." Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's get into the question, shall we? And then we'll maybe weave in a bit of a Jordan story time into the mix. So this is a good question. This is like a good bridging question here. What do you think are some of your projections? Great question. You're welcome, Chuck. Chuck, it's good to see you. I didn't know who Anonymously Anonymous was. Chuck, we'll be in touch. We'll be in touch when the time's right. I hope you're well. Okay, what do you think are some of your projections? So my historically worst projection is I have a bit of a tendency to project the golden shadow and expect the best in people, and often be surprised when human fallibility is the inevitability. I'll put this into context. Historically speaking, maybe 10 years ago, I had something of a naivety about I consider myself a certain way. I hold myself to a certain standard. I generally try and be kind and compassionate and want the best of people. Yes, I can be selfish, and yes, maybe I'm a bit boisterous at times, but I I try and I try and be good in the world. And I didn't realize back then that my golden shadow glasses that I was wearing was tilting everyone else, and then basically what I was seeing on people's faces was like, then if you take the glasses off, the smile that I was projecting, I was projecting my insides onto the outer world, which is kind of cute in a way because, again, like it's nice that you've got basically a consistent image of yourself, which is more or less, it's possible to be self-loving, even in the dark times, even when the trauma wasn't resolved. It's like, even when there was heavy dissociative experiences for me in my early 20s before I'd gone sober, I still had a fundamental energy of like things could get better and it's possible to work at something and be able to improve your life situation. And I used to struggle so much when I was projecting my sense of like forwards going momentum and looking on the bright side into every single relationship that I was in. And this was obviously difficult in terms of friendships, romantic relationships, family situations, anything like non-professional. When it came to professionalization, my goodness, if you're a coach, a therapist, a teacher, or someone who likes to be helpful, this is something that you've got to watch out for. If you see every single person that you work with only in their highest light, like a bright candle shining full of possibilities, and you don't accept that they've got a shitty side as well, and you're not willing to look at their shitty side, you're not willing to really get in the muck, sniff it all up, and say, damn, that's also this person that I'm trying to help or trying to support. You're not going to be very good at your job for very long. I made a few mistakes, which I'm happy to admit publicly. I suppose early on in my mentoring, probably within the first year of coaching, where I would unconsciously, this is something called transference, unconsciously counter transfer, which is a form of projection. Transference coming in from the client or the student or the patient, whoever, and then you'd counter transfer onto them. I would unconsciously throw in my like positive intentions, can do it attitude, like when accountability is set, I will do the accountability kind of thinking. And my goodness, sometimes there are a few clients that kind of, I think, I think I could have helped better by realizing that they just didn't have the capacity to be able to follow through on the things that they said when they were motivated in the session. Which is kind of tough to admit, right? Maybe you can relate to this. Even if you're not professional, when you've got a friend and you get deep into like a 3 hour conversation, you're both super hyped up and super motivated about a business change or a health and fitness goal, or maybe something about relationships. If you're the kind of person who, when you say it, you do it, you kind of assume that your friend's the same way. But you got to watch out for those moments. That's a tricky place to be, and it gets even more tricky when you have clients or students or anyone that you're helping in a professional context, even outside of therapy. If you're working as a team leader, for example, you need to look at the brightness and also look at the shittiness of people, and not be too attached to either, but see them as the gestalt of the individual, the whole individual, and that helps you to stop launching your projections. Because guess what? Same for you as well. You are both the bright, and you are also the muck. Hope that helps. Next question, if you got any for me, welcome. 39 people joining live. About the same amount of people we have in self-integration school. Can't keep it out of my mouth, but that's the amount of students. It's so good to be here. Honestly, just say hello. I just say hello. Like if you've been watching me for a while, it's like, hey, good to have you back. Good to see you. Like, or thank goodness you're here. Or like, go away. I don't want you to be here anymore. Whatever you want. Just any engagement is good engagement, basically. Actually, you know what? You know what I'm gonna do? I don't do this very often. I haven't been live on YouTube in 2 months. If you're watching this, please just like the video. You don't even need to announce yourself. Just like the video so YouTube knows that this is valuable. So the algorithm goes, oh, the channel isn't dead. And then we come back in. So just give the video a like real quick. I can see a few likes coming in. Went from 11 to 12 to 13. That will massively help me to then go on the homepage to other people, especially after this little bit of a hiatus. And if you keep commenting, even better, we'll get more people in. Again, 100,000 subscribers, 41 people on a live stream. You can imagine it's very unlikely we get beyond like 60 or 70, but just liking the video, please just like the video, sir. I'll never do this again. Like the video. Come back in full force, YouTube begging from the heights of the self-integration school revered teacher to begging for likes on YouTube so the algorithm doesn't punish me. But that is the fun of the internet game. Looking at the chat, seemed like they wanted to get better, but they didn't follow through. Yes, that is true. That is true. Whenever anyone comes to therapy or coaching, or even if you get motivated in a conversation with a friend, fundamentally, as Sephora just mentioned there, it is genuine that someone wants to get better. They genuinely want to improve their life. They genuinely want to get into a new relationship or leave the relationship, quit the drink, get the drugs, whatever it might be. They genuinely want to do it. But when that peak state rises and rises and rises in the conversation, this is the thing to look out for. This is the tactical thing to pay attention to. State rises and rises and rises and rises and rises, but where did it rise from? For me in this example, I rose from here at the level of the heart, symbolically. Let's get a bit playful with this. I'm rising my state from the level of the heart because my foundation is basically a loving place, a self-respecting, self-compassionate place with myself, masculine principle, feminine principle. I have a baseline, decently high self-esteem, decently self-loving beliefs and behaviors and inner monologue. From my baseline, I can then rise up into a motivated, nearly euphoric, super inspired state. But when the conversation ends and I inevitably crash down, what is the foundation that I return to? For me personally, generally operating from the place of the heart, generally operating from a place of high self-esteem and competence. One of the challenges is when you have this charge and you're generally the person who has that high charge in any particular relationship that you're in, you might operate from the heart or maybe operate even from the soul, maybe even higher than mine. You're operating from the soul. They might not have it. And they might crash down to lower needs, more survival needs. It doesn't mean they're bad, but they might be operating more from the gut, or maybe operating more from the genitals. Maybe there's something like a sexual addiction or sexual compulsion. That is really worth paying attention to. So just watch out for it. There's a few questions coming through in the chat. If I haven't got to your question just yet, please be patient. We've got 42 people watching and 24 likes at 42 minutes long on the live stream, which is hilariously synchronistic because in the EU seminar we're doing a seminar. Actually, I can't show you because the candle's on a stack of books. We're doing a seminar on halfway up the mountain, spiritual psychosis. I was leading the seminar about 13 spiritual neuroses like grandiosity, inferiority, atheism, twin flame delusions, but all kinds of things. And there was a hilarious moment in the group where we're kind of joking about angel numbers and we're talking about 22, 42, and the twos and twos and the fours and twos, and that's when I see the camera. So I guess it's all magical, isn't it? Or maybe it just means nothing. Maybe it's a coincidence. Alex, I saw your question in the chat. Let's get to it. Alex says, quick question for you, Jordan, before I go to bed. I feel a bit aimless in my study. Don't we all occasionally? The consistency is there, but it feels like a lack of structure is killing my progress. Any advice on how I can structure my own study if I can't afford the self-integration school? It's probably hopeless, my friend. The self-integration school is the only place where you could possibly get better. I'm sorry. There's no other place to turn. There's no other avenue of salvation. You're a little bit fucked. Obviously kidding. English sarcasm. You've seen so many books from the channel, and I know you've already got a long reading list. Just go for the books that really have landed for you. If you want a throwback to like, okay, what really matters to me? For me personally, just go to a YouTube video of like my top 7 books on this, my top 10 books on this. Choose 2 or 3 of them that matter to you, and then all you need to do is commit to something like 14-day or 30-day daily reading challenge. It is that simple, my friend. You don't need to pay me £4,400 to get in the self-integration school and commit to all these seminars. Like, you don't need to commit to like a master's level study and really commit to massively intense therapeutic process. You can just buy a couple books for a tenner each. I've shared hundreds and hundreds of them on the channel and say, you know what, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to read for 90 minutes per day, no matter what. Okay, when am I going to read? I'm going to read in the morning with a coffee or in the evening with a nice tea. That's what you need to do. One reading chunk or two reading chunks. Maybe you read on the weekend. Maybe you read throughout the week. If you need a bit of accountability, obviously involve a friend, involve a relationship partner if you're in a relationship, whatever it might be. Just commit to that first immediate step. Don't go into paralysis by analysis. Everyone, not only Alex, if you're likewise in a situation where I've fallen off my inner work and the self-integration school sounds pretty great, but don't want to spend that much money on reading books and talking about my feelings. Obviously, we do a lot more than reading books and talking about feelings, but like you don't need to join a formal program. You don't need to work with me personally. Like the whole idea of self-integration school is yes, there's the curriculum, yes, there's the coaching, and yes, there's a community. But realistically, like it is you. I can only be around. Like, let me pause this. Let me pause this. This is breaking the bubble, like a pop into the bubble moment. Any program that you join, any program, any psychology program, any healing course, whether it's me or someone else or some teacher, some guru, some leader, some traditional university, who is the one taking the course? Who is the one doing the work? Who is the one showing up or not showing up? You can lay out a Michelin star feast of 20 courses, but if the individual doesn't walk into the room, there is no desire, there is no possibility, and of course, there's not going to be any transformation. It really is on you in the best sense possible. There's this fun meme that I shared on Instagram just yesterday. If no one's coming to save you, then it also means that no one's coming to stop you. Nice little bit of kind of modern. It's not Epicurean. It's not Stoic either. I wouldn't know which Greek school it is, but there's an element of like a nice practical philosophy in that. You are simultaneously the problem and the solution. The program that you step into, the structure that you're asking for, the particular discipline that you're looking for, the self-integration school curriculum, 30 modules, 500 videos, 104 books, probably 200 plus bonus books by the time that I'm done. That's the structure. That's a discipline structure. That is all irrelevant, like scaffolding around a home if you haven't got that devotional cause. The devotional cause is the heart that beats. The discipline is all the veins and arteries and limbs around the periphery. If your fingers got cut off, you'd be fine. If your hands got cut off, it'd be pretty difficult. Your arm got cut off, even worse, but you would still survive. That devotional core is the thing that matters. If that's burning low, find a way to fire that up and just keep it simple with a daily reading practice, getting a few books secondhand, and then just sticking at it for 2 weeks or 30 days. Again, if in the future finances work out and you can join a self-integration school, I would be very happy to form quite an intense working relationship with you. In the meantime, I'll do what I can in these YouTube videos and just read the books. Like, genuinely, like I know that over the next 10 years, if I am lucky and if I am blessed, I will maybe have something like 750 to 1,000 students go through the self-integration school program. That's it. It's a 2-year program. People may last for 9 months to 2 years, maybe 1 year, maybe year and a half. 2 years is the maximum. Ironically, I just got a note from my bank. That is very synchronistic. I got a note from my bank that I just spent a tenner at giffgaff, which is a UK mobile provider. This is my live streaming phone, and this is what the SIM card is for. I have a £10 SIM card that just gives me data streaming on this phone in particular. This has been turned off in my drawer for 2 months. And I just got the notification from my bank that I spent a tenner. Interesting. Full of synchronicities today. I guess it's all happening in good timing. But hopefully, Alex, that answers your question. Genuinely, good luck. And for anyone else who isn't Alex, or if your name's also Alex, that's convenient. But if your name isn't Alex, I would love to work with you in self-integration school. I know that realistically, I'm going to work with probably 1,000 people maximum in like my life's work. The hundreds of thousands and the millions of people that I would be lucky to keep being in contact with over the next 10 years on YouTube already. I think I had something like 4 million-ish views on the YouTube channel. It's basically just trusting that I can show up with good energy, I can show up with a structure, I can show up with books, I can show up with my best possible work, but ultimately you are the one listening to my words right now, and if you decide not to do anything with the words I'm giving you and the energy that I'm giving you, I reached the limitation of what's possible. And once again, if no one's coming to save you, then no one's coming to stop you, and that sense of devotional willpower is hopefully something that everyone here can take into their self-healing and self-therapeutic and self-actualizing pathway for at least the next month ahead. Daily reading, choose a book, just stay steady with it. Let's look for the next question. Invulnerable Zoomer, I appreciate that you're asking the same question a few times over. If I haven't got to your question, please don't repeat it in the chat. I will get to you eventually. Just making sure that I tend to people who wrote it earlier on. Okay, from near the start of the live stream, great question here from Magda Khalid. 16157. If you're still here, give me a hi in the chat. What do you think of the people that go into reading books like The Power of Now, and they think it's not necessary to go into the shadow and only live in the now? Very interesting timing. So I just facilitated a 2-hour seminar on spiritual psychology inside, you guessed it, the Self-Integration School. And one of the ideas that really is gaining a lot of popularity is that the spiritual bypass is not something which is wise. At the very least, it's not just a diversion and distraction. It can actually cause a lot more harm than it is healing. There's a great book over here. Actually, I will bring it out because it's immediately available. I believe it should be on this shelf. There's 2 shelves. Spiritual bypassing is, let's find it. There it is. Fantastic. So this is a book on spiritual bypassing. Jordan, it's flipped around. I can't read it. Okay, then screenshot it and then turn it around in your camera reel. That is the book right there, Spiritual Bypassing by Robert Augustus Masters. Pretty popular book. This book, actually, fun fact, my writing style is very similar to this author's writing style. If you like the way that I speak, you'll probably really like this book. There's a real similarity. I think I even wrote in the margin, I used in my highlights, I wrote something like, this person writes like me. Yeah, there we go. Right there. Right there. I write like this. And the sentence that I highlighted was, we express a genuine compassion with spine and heart and with an especially keen and caring eye for those who are still under the spell of blind compassion. I'm like, yeah, I like that mix of accuracy and poetry. The spiritual bypassing is really the theme that we're talking about here. When people read The Power of Now or any other, let's call it approachable, accessible spiritual book, and they have realistically yet to enter into the world of trauma work and psychological healing. Rarely, I suppose, people might be aware of these things and might go into it, but then kind of avoid it because they want to dissociate. But often it is just ignorance. Often what happens is that someone, you might relate to this, you might have had a fucked up adolescence, you got hooked on drink, started having sex with the wrong kinds of people, you had issues with your family, and then guess what? Life's pretty shit as an adult as well. It's actually in some ways even worse than when you're a teenager, and you find God, or you find a new age spiritual community, or you find a place where you feel like it's more soulful than the shit show that you've survived. And it's very, very easy to then put on a spiritual persona, change out your black robes for your white robes, and go down that path for a few years. I definitely went somewhere into that space myself in my early 20s. I didn't get too far into it, but it was very healing and very therapeutic to be focused on the issues of the soul. I started meditating when I was 18, actually, if I would share the story. I left home and went to university when I was 18. That was a relief and a transformation for me in itself. I've always wanted independence. I always wanted to go and be in my own space. So it was naturally quite joyous to be out in the world by myself. And started meditating in the Meditation Society, went on a few meditation retreats, and then got into fasting as well. And between about 18 and 22, I was doing 2-day, 3-day, 4-day fast, meditating for periods of time, twice per day for an hour and a half, 2 hours per day for years in a row. Sometimes very intense seasons of meditation. Question is, well, to what extent was I genuinely healing with a bit of spiritual contact with my higher self or my soul or God? And to what extent did I actually need a bit of somatic therapy, a bit of classic trauma work, a bit of psychoanalysis, some psychosynthesis, some integral psychology understanding of why I am the way I am, my father wound, my mother wound, maybe a bit of Jungian dream work and active imagination? I don't know. For that particular season, I was on the spiritual pathway. Let me take a sip of this coconut water from my nice white spiritual mug. For that season of my life, I was on the spiritual road. And then eventually, I went down a trauma pathway and then kind of cleared a lot of my stuff and then professionalized in inner work in a full holistic sense where you get the highest of the high. That's called transpersonal psychology. If you're new to the term, transpersonal psychology is spiritual psychology, but with an academic twist. If you're really looking for like a whole body of literature, Invulnerable Zoomer, my friend, you have commented about 10 times in this live stream. I see your question. I will get to you when I can. I specifically said, please be patient. Once more, please be patient. I'm answering someone else's question. Just pick up the general room vibe, and I will be very happy to answer the question. It very much leads on from what I'm talking about right now as well, so I may actually be building a bridge to your question, so just give me a moment, my friend. As I was saying just then, when you get into the full highest of the high possibilities and you feel spirituality as a real thing inside of you might want to bring in your intellectuality and you might want to have a bit more of a structure. And you might find that religions out there don't necessarily have the right fit for you. You can't go back to Christianity. You can't quite fit into like an Eastern model or whatever faith you were raised in. It might be an Islamic background. If you're looking for a body of literature, you want transpersonal psychology. This is what transpersonal psychology is. Forgive the sound. Transpersonal psychology is everything in this shelf right here. See that? That is screenshot time. You got 5 seconds. If you're washing the dishes, there you go. 5 seconds. There's a shelf. 3, 2, 1. There you go. That was your opportunity. Unless you're on the live stream replay, then you can actually get that yourself in real time. Transpersonal psychology, spiritual psychology, and academia coming together in real time, and that is one of the personally one of the most fruitful realms of research. So anyone who gets into the power of now and finds it's a bit empty, you might need to go and do a bit of trauma work, a bit of somatics, a bit of bioenergetics, a bit of practical therapy work. But then if you want to return back to the spiritual, transpersonal psychology is the avenue for you. The Journal of Transpersonal Psychology was founded by Abraham Maslow. You might know him from the theory of self-actualization. I believe it was in 1967 or 1968 he founded the Journal of Transpersonal Psychology. So this isn't a new thing. We've got like 60 years of literary archive for the proper spiritual science, and it's very, very nourishing for people who are looking for the next step after, the power of now or the four agreements or the untethered soul or something like this. Invulnerable Zoomer, let's address your question. Thank you for being patient. He said, Jordan, by your personal experience, have you ever had a spiritual experience which was close to infinite love or boundless love? Thank you. Absolutely. Let's talk spiritual things. So, Jordan's spiritual journey and formless non-dual mysticism. Let me have a moment to consider what I want to share here. Invulnerable Zoomer, I know you're still here. Can you let me know why you're asking the question? Why are you interested in if I've had an experience of, non-dual abiding or formless mysticism or experiencing infinite boundless love? Is there something that you're curious about me in particular, or are you kind of going through an experience like this? Or, let me calibrate a little bit. It's a big topic, and I want to make sure that I'm answering it in a way that's useful for you. Just give me a comment quickly in the chat. Take another sip of water. And then we'll attend to mystical spiritual experience. Can move the camera, forgive the mic. Alrighty. Also, thank you for everyone who liked the live stream. We've now got 31 likes. I appreciate that, and I think it's probably helping the algorithm. So, Invulnerable Zoomer 5266 says, it's something I've been feeling a little bit by loving kindness meditation, and the love levels I'm feeling were terrifyingly consuming. Interesting. So you actually getting scared. You're getting scared by the infinite love of everything. Interesting. I mean, it depends on your metaphysics. Some people would say that when you get close to the Godhead, or some people would speak more simply. Some people would say that when you feel like you connect with God, or you arguably find that sense of God within you, you come into contact with a sense of undeniable and timeless love for all things at all times in all places. You have reached what is called something of an enlightened state, even if temporarily in a meditation. The sense of self divides, the sense of self dissolves temporarily, hopefully not permanently, and you really do genuinely feel connected with it all. If you don't have trauma in your body, or very minimal trauma in your body, at least in that moment, you transcend the bodily condition. It's what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body, to bring back in a bit of power of now wisdom. Not all bad, not all bad. The introductory levels can also have great truths. You do genuinely experience a great sense of love and oneness, because again, this is, I would go as far to be controversial here. I think our natural state should be one of self-love, being a mixture of conditional self-respect and unconditional self-compassion. This idea of unconditional love, I've taught this for years, it's not very useful practically for people. if you have feminine principle, compassion, unconditionally, you can be accepting and understanding and forgiving of your rights and your wrongs and the places that you fall short. But also, don't forget the masculine principle here. Don't forget the principle of order and structure and limitation, which is conditional respect. For example, you can be unconditionally accepting, unconditionally compassionate, feminine principle. This is two halves of the love equation for the fact that you just relapsed on drink and drugs and hooked up with your ex. But you can also have that conditional respect element, like a strong father figure within or a grandfather within that says, my dear boy or my dear girl, I love you dearly, but this cannot continue. This is beneath you. Bit of a judgment, healthy discernment. To have both of these together and actually live that on a day-to-day basis, this has been something that I've been practicing this for. Actually, I was doing this in traveling there. I wrote in one of my journals. I think it was 2015. No, it would have been 2017, 2018. In 2018, I wrote in one of my journals this equation for what exactly self-love means, and I've been working the system ever since and teaching it to my students. It is immensely practical. When in an enlightenment state, or a near enlightenment state, pseudo enlightenment state from meditation, you feel like you've come into unconditional love. I would just guide your attention towards the fact that this is a temporary experience, and also you are still fundamentally a human, and you will necessarily come back into limitation. Don't be afraid by what you peek beyond the curtain, and don't be worried that you've contacted something that's much bigger than yourself. You will, predictably, come back into your own sense of identity and be limited once again. That limitation principle is still a supportive principle for the growth of consciousness. We need limitation and friction to be able to grow beyond our state of undifferentiated oneness with all things. If I wasn't Jordan and you weren't Invulnerable Zuma, how could I say, Invulnerable Zuma, let's have a conversation? There needs to be that separation for us to be able to have the possibility of learning something from each other, to be able to learn something about ourselves, right? So that moment there is it. With duality serves a purpose. If you feel like you're getting a bit too non-dual, then just ease off on the meditations for a while. I think you had a comment in the chat. You said I should probably do some trauma work before I go full on metaphysical love. Yes, yes. Have a look into codependency. Have a look into classic inner child healing. I mean, I've got videos on all these things. If you search Jordan Thornton codependence, Jordan Thornton inner child, Jordan Thornton trauma work, Jordan Thornton somatic psychology, you're going to see 25 or 30 books from 4 or 5 videos, and they will help. Many of the books are featured inside of the Self-Integration School curriculum. They will be the best of the best, and you can just get them there. You could open up another tab on your phone or on your browser, search those up, and get a plan together today, and get the trauma work going. Checking the questions. 53 people here live, 37 likes, 42 minutes in. Great to be back. Such a good feeling. Need to make sure I'm careful of the time because I've got a seminar. I've got a 2-hour live seminar with my USA members from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. UK, followed by an after party because I'm a crazy night owl. That is to say the least. I've been staying up well past sunrise, but international time zones, what can you do? What can you do? The love of the work keeps me going. Even when I'm on 4.5 hours sleep today, which isn't normal. Normally I sleep for about 9 hours, but today I'm just letting my ego and boundaries dissolve temporarily. You see what I'm saying? Temporarily, I'm getting connected with this infinite love in the YouTube live stream. I'm on very little sleep because I've been working on the website, and hopefully it still works. Sephora, let me know, does the website work for you right now? Otherwise, oh my goodness, what is the sleep deprivation for? But the fun thing about sleep deprivation is eventually your mouth fails you. You might notice that I'll start drinking more and more throughout the live stream because I'm going to be speaking a lot, and even more after the stream ends. But there's still a speed and there's still an energy. You tap into an unseen power source when you're tired and you're teaching. It's so cool to experience, and arguably it's a little bit addictive as well. I might get hooked on the sleep deprived YouTube live stream. Jordan's Zero Filter live stream. Sephora says selfintegrationschool.com now works. Fantastic, Sephora. Hope you enjoy the videos over there, and yeah, find something useful there as well. Questions. Let's get back to it. If I didn't see your question from before, please repost it, and I will try and do my best to come back to it. In Vulnerable Zuma, I hope that helped. Thank you for being patient as well. Doug says, we've missed Jordan. Seeing this live stream, it is like seeing an old friend. God bless. Doug, thank you. It is a pleasure to be back. I wish, I genuinely, I cannot emphasize, please, it took me 4 years to get the consistency of 100,000 YouTube subscribers, and then I got the crown of okay, I've made it. Now it can really begin. Now, like, I'm a proper YouTuber. I'm a proper content creator, and I knew I couldn't be doing YouTube style videos while also filming self-integration school professional academic style curriculum videos. So I had to put it on pause, and I shit you not, as we say in England, I shit you not. Every single week, multiple times per week, I need to get back on YouTube. I need to get back on YouTube. I want to get back on YouTube. I miss YouTube. Why am I not doing YouTube anymore? Oh, it's because the sales page isn't working and the website's broken. The students are settling into the school and I can't split my energy. Like, and finally, here we are sharing the space together. If you're watching live, this is super narcissistic, this statement, but you know what? You're watching my live stream. This is my life update. This is the moment where the next chapter begins. I know it for sure. There's such a good energy. I might not have the perfect posting schedule. You're not going to see a perfect like Friday and Sunday upload, but it the orientation has changed. This is the difference. This is self-integration school. This is YouTube. YouTube is the candle. I've been like this by necessity, leaned backwards, private, hard, deep. Don't matter school stuff. YouTube, public, opening up. It's here. That opening is here, and it's good to be back as well, Doug. So let the passion pour forth. Somewhat erotic description of things, but I like teaching, so you know what does it for me. Let's get into it. Next question. Next question. From Kyriakoskri. Kyriakoskri. Don't be cross with me, Kyriakos. So would you recommend people who are into inner work to actually look at depth psychology, psychoanalysis, somatics, existential humanistic approaches, and then culminate with transpersonal psychology? Or go straight to transpersonal psychology because the rest aren't as impactful? My goodness, that question was built for me. That is such a deep question. There are would I recommend it? It depends. It truly depends. Okay, so I can't not talk about the self-integration school curriculum. Again, the reason I'm talking about the self-integration school, you don't need to join. You don't need to give me any money. This is just the self-integration. This is like, I just want to share. I've got a sales page. You don't need to buy anything from me. I'm not trying to pitch a thing. Just like, I'm not tune your brain out of like, oh, Jordan's doing an advert now. I'm just trying, like, the self-integration school curriculum is like the culmination of these 700 psychology books and how I structure my full understanding of psychology into a pathway that would be useful for someone practically, which relates specifically to this question. I feel very, very certain, 99% certain at this stage. The problem with psychology degrees and the problem with training programs is that you cannot do week 1 into week 2 into week 3 into week 4 into week 5 into week 6 into week 7 into week 8, then we take a break into week 10 into week 11, and have a curriculum that everyone follows at the same time and think it actually works. Controversial. I don't think it's possible. I do not think it's possible. And the reason it doesn't work is you might get an intellectual understanding of the material, but I guarantee, and I fucking know it, my students I was teaching in the EU seminar and the ones I'm going to be teaching in the USA seminar, some of them are going through breakups and divorces, some of them are struggling with relapses and addiction issues, some of them are reflecting on old issues with their mother and their father from 40 years ago, and some of them are breaking through and awakening with God and divine consciousness on the same exact week. So when I say, you know what, for this seminar, we're going to be talking about spiritual bypassing. Literally, that's what we did today. We actually did talk about spiritual bypassing. I know that it is an irrelevant conversation for a portion of that room. But what am I to do? What am I to do in a group context? The issue is that with all the different fields of psychology, somatic psychology, Jungian psychology, transpersonal psychology, humanistic psychology, behavioral psychology, cognitive behavioral psychology, any kind of neurolinguistic programming, anything to do with the transpersonal, anything to do with the super practical, the bioenergetic, every different way of looking at the issue, all of these different psychologies, they surround the candle. They are like, here's somatics, here's Jungian, here's humanistic. This is the thing. You are the thing itself. The way that you are looking will depend on what's relevant to you. If you're looking towards me and I represent somatic psychology, and behind you over here is Jungian psychology and the active imagination and the intellectual, if I start talking from behind you, it is quiet, it is dimmed, it is irrelevant, you are focusing elsewhere. So when I have any particular group of individuals in one particular classroom and focused on one particular theme, I need to accept the fact that some people are just basically switched off while others are lit on fire and they've been waiting for this theme for a whole month or something like this. The way that I try to reconcile it is that on Sundays we have thematic seminars and calls, and on Fridays we have open Q&A and open coaching, so that people can basically keep me updated week by week of what's happening, and I can do proper coaching work and proper therapeutic work rather than it all being just a structure. When you're structuring your own studies, this is how I translate what I'm doing again to how you can do something for yourself completely for free. I would advise doing something like a mixture of the two. I landed on the structure of 2 calls per week for 2 hours, small groups, intimate seminars to keep a small group of people where you can manage different themes, even if there's collective themes that are very different. There's a smaller group, so it's a bit more contained. And on the Friday, we make it personal, we make it practical to what's happening this week, which might be just one exact theme for an entire month. I'm going through the breakup. My heart has been torn open, and I feel like absolute crap. That might be month 1 and month 2. And then you might be open to transpersonal psychology. But even then, if you start studying the transpersonal psychology, maybe you're looking at ideas of, I've got Primal Womb right here. So Primal Womb by John Furman and Roberto Assagioli. We have the idea of the higher and lower unconscious being something which is getting the book right here, doing the thing, holding it up to YouTube so you can see that I'm looking at a book. This is how we do it online. There we go. It's this diagram, making sure to not burn it from the candle. Please pay attention. If you're going through a breakup, if you're struggling with drink and drugs, if you're hooked on pornography, or maybe you haven't been to the gym in a whole week and you're binging on junk food, whatever the thing is that's fucking you up right now, whatever the shadow behavior might be, see how engaged you can be with this transpersonal psychology lesson. From psychosynthesis perspective, according to Roberto Assagioli, the unconscious is split into both the personal and the collective unconscious. I know it's flipped around on your screen, just pay attention to my words and you can screenshot this if you want to. But here we have the higher unconscious, the middle unconscious, and the lower unconscious. It is not enough to say it's unconscious inside of me. You have to ask the question, well, where in the unconscious is this inside of me? Is it beneath me? Has it got a negative charge? Is it above me? Does it have a positive charge? Or is it something which actually more accurately is in the subconscious? That range of possibilities that I could reach towards, I could remember something. It's kind of in this plane. It's at eye level. It's not above me. I don't need a breakthrough experience. I don't need a peak meditation. It's not beneath me. I don't need a cathartic regression. It's in my middle unconscious. Even just adopting a framework like that, the applied psychosynthesis transpersonal psychology, that can be brought into the context of the breakup, the addiction, the avoidance of physical health responsibilities. You can weave in new transpersonal concepts in the context of your particular life issues if you just consume as much as is relevant for this season of your life. I try to encourage you, I hope this comes across online and YouTube, to not worry about specializing in any particular area of psychology because you have to specialize in that area. If you do not give a single shit, I will say it plainly, about God or the soul or the spirit at this particular stage in your journey, that is fine. If you couldn't care less about the masculine or feminine archetypes, if you really have no desire to explore the somatic psychology of the bioenergetic holding patterns of Stanley Kellerman, the rigid, the collapsed, the swollen, the dense, or maybe the different character structures of Alexander Lowen are going back into file, it's completely okay. This journey, for most people, for everyone probably watching this, you are on a 3 to 5 year journey at the very least to focus psychological work via the books. Often, for many people, it's a lifelong journey that goes in decade by decade. Yeah. Chris Morgan said, I had to check if my speed settings up. No, this is live. Jordan is on fire today. You know what? I've had people say this to me. I've had I've had students inside the curriculum. They're going through the material, and apparently I'm speaking much faster now. I think there's something around when the information's inside of you and it's already all clicked into place. It's the equivalent of pulling back the curtain, and it just comes out. It gets better and better with every 50 videos that I film for the curriculum. This feeling of cohesion, like the jigsaw puzzle that's been building for the last 6.5 years in this library, is finally taking shape. Where there's a form out, there's a firm border. You know, when you're doing a jigsaw. In my case, I'm doing a 104 book curriculum jigsaw with 500 videos. Let's imagine it's a 500-piece jigsaw. I've got 300 pieces of that jigsaw now in place. And although it's like this, it's kind of like this here, because some of the later modules aren't yet filmed. They're going to be filmed in a few months' time. I'm going to get all done by 2026. It's right there. And I can speak to it. I can materialize it. It's right there. It's such a good feeling. Yeah, I'm really happy that comes across as well. Maybe though, do need to contain myself a little bit. Again, sleep deprivation is a certain thing. Let's have a look at the chat. If you're joining live, thank you. Good to see 49 people watching live and 37 likes. Don't know where my phone went. I threw it down in a fit of passion from that wonderful question. I hope that that answered your question from the original moment. Yeah, would I recommend that people who are into doing work look into all the things and then culminate with transpersonal psychology? No, you don't need to work linearly. You don't need to work from bottom to top. You can start with the psyche, you can start with the soma, you can start with the heart, you can start with the soul. If at the very least we're looking maybe in a physical template, this is a more of a chakra system perspective, a different type of language for people who like operating this way. If we go from the physical body to the etheric body, to the astral body, to the lower mental body, to the higher mental body, to the causal body, the different halonic layers of reality, the different halonic layers of identity from a bit more of a Ken Wilberian perspective. You can work from the causal down to the physical. You can start at the astral. You can start at the mental. They're all going to weave in. Imagine a thread stretching all the way in and all the way backwards. It's completely appropriate to start where you are and then bring in just as much theory as you need to be able to contextualize something that you're going through. Great questions today. I was admittedly worried that when I showed up back on YouTube, again, this is the inevitability of having a wider audience. I don't think really anyone here would fall into this category, but if you are a bit more popular on the internet, you tend to have people who, I suppose, kindly said, don't quite get what you're doing, and you might get some questionable comments in the live stream, and you might get some off-color comments as well, or people that they're asking one thing and they think you represent one thing. Actually, that's not the case at all. But I've really enjoyed this first hour of live streaming so far. I've got 53 minutes until the USA seminar, so I'm going to go right from this into a 2-hour paid seminar and an after party. But I'm going to take this little down tempo moment. I'm going to accept the fact that, you know what, some people listen to the live stream, you're like, okay, gotta go now, gotta scroll off, and this is going to be the moment where you leave, like the permission moment where like people will leave, and I'm not going to play the attention game just so I can restore my throat and have some good amount of coconut water to keep myself hydrated, so I can keep talking and keep speaking for like the next 40 minutes. So you know what, for the next 30 seconds, we're going to take a meditative moment. Let's make it a nice moment for everyone. I would like you to tune into your body right now. Let's turn it into a bit of a game, a bit of a fun, somatic active imagination. I'm going to go into the mode. Right now I'm noticing that there is a tightness and a scratchiness in my throat because I have been using my voice in a way which is expansive but also a little bit painful. My question to you, is there a part of your body that you've been using a lot this week? And it's simultaneously a place of great pleasure. You might be thinking of something, I'm not thinking about that. Great pleasure, great possibility. You really identify with the strength or the power or the beauty or the wonder of this part of you, physically speaking, but also there's a little bit of pain, there's a little bit of tightness, there's a little bit of tension. Let me know in the chat. Just do a little bit of body scan. Shabnam says my brain. Gonna be checking the chat while I rehydrate. Is there any part of your body that's simultaneously the golden shadow and more of the classic negative shadow in terms of physical complaint, of physical illness? You feel like, yes, this is me at my best, and also, there's pain here right now as well. And I'm noticing it while listening to the live stream. Don't leave Shabnam hanging. We're going to get back into the Q&A in just one moment. See, it's funny. 11 people dropped off the live stream. I knew it would happen. We lost, 20% of people go because 1 minute of Jordan having spoken for an hour straight non-stop is too much to bear. Too much to bear to just rehydrate. It's a fun game, YouTube. It's nothing personal, it's just the way the internet works. You know what? I'm ravenous. I'll have some water as well. Alrighty. Somatic refresh. Let's lock in for another 40 minutes until I literally have to go and do the next seminar. I'm going to put 1 mint in my mouth. Maybe 2. Just 1. Let's go for it. Nice strong mint. Next question on the screen will be the question that I answer. If you posted it earlier, please repost it. It's my brain, gut feelings, energy levels up and down. Chris said I have had the worst week of my life. Brother, I am sorry. In some ways, it's been the best, the most healing. I've cried more than I have in years each day. My eyes hurt. Chris, thank you for sharing. If it's a meaningful dissolution, then time is not lost and it's not a waste of life. There is this concept within Kazimierz Dabrowski's Polish psychology around 1940-1950 of positive disintegration. Here it is. Kazimierz Dabrowski, criminally undervalued Polish psychologist. He has the theory of positive disintegration, and he would argue that true self-actualization and being a genuinely authentic person requires periodic moments of dissolving what you thought was stable or being suddenly thrown into a temporary dark night of the soul so that you can experience enough friction on the inside to be able to become more of what actually wants to happen. It's a very deep sentence right there. To become more of what actually wants to happen, to become more of what's actually wanting to come through, whether you call that your higher self or your soul or your spirit, or there's some kind of unworkable condition in your life that you're forcibly suddenly stripped of or confronted with. Suffering with meaning is very different from blind suffering and meaningless pain, and it seems like you are suffering with meaning. And I just wanted to pause a moment to speak to that, Chris, and I hope you're well. I hope the live stream also is giving you a good dose of energy in one way or another, and you feel that you can restore and refresh for a new week ahead. Again, you don't need to put on like a false self mask and put on a persona mask. Yippee, everything's fine, but there's meaning in it, and that's still meaningful. Yelena said, well, welcome, good to see you here. Watched your video on intuition versus trauma, was pretty interesting. Thank you. Not sure which one, but probably filmed it at some point, so I'm glad that I did. Okay, the Healing Times was the first person to ask the question. And Chris said, if only you knew how extremely relevant that is for me now. Wow, thank you, Chris. I get it. Trying to take a moment to pause and tune in, as the spiritual people say. Anyway, question. I find myself traveling back and forth between heart and head, also merging them, but can wonder if I'm resisting a more heart-centered existence. Well, the question is, do you need to have a heart-centered existence? What's wrong with having a head-centered existence? What's wrong with being both head-centered and heart-centered? Surely the idea of the chakra system is that all 7 chakras should be open and functioning vitally and appropriately, depending on what's happening in your life. You can have a fully alive, fully inspired heart, and also a fully alive, fully inspired head, mind, gut. Right? You don't have to choose. If you're speaking more colloquially as maybe you want to have a feeling in life where there's more everyday magic, there's more sense of emotional fulfillment, there's more positive feelings, to put it briefly and bluntly, rather than living from the mind, the to-do lists, the logical things that must be done. I get that and I can relate to that. But don't oversimplify head being one thing and heart being another thing, because a mind on fire is a very beautiful thing. If you feel lucid and sharp and clear in your intellect, you are simultaneously supporting your heart and also transcending the possibilities of the heart. The heart is not necessarily the center of who you are and the chief decider of what should be done with your life. It's a council table, because again, head, heart, and soul. Head, heart, soul, and gut, and genital. There's 5 elements there at the very least. You want the various kings and queens that you are, your head, your heart, the different centers of power, to speak symbolically, to all be functioning appropriately and to all be clear and lucid and powerful. A fully alive mind with wickedly clear imagination, like super lucid articulation and ability to weave together ideas and present what's going on the inside and communicate it on the outside, and then like, I can come from the heart, I can also come from the mind. Just have both. Just do both. I get what you mean, but let's put the head back on the pedestal a little bit. Again, talking head, dissociative head. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the highest possibility of a truly inspired mind. I want that for everyone now. Thoughts on spiritual warfare? Oh, that's an interesting question. My thoughts on spiritual warfare. Do we want to talk about that? Do we want to go there? Is YouTube going to allow me to go down the conspiracy route? Oh, first live stream back. Should I go into spiritual warfare topics? What is going on planet Earth? Is there something happening in the collective? Maybe I'll do the 111 collective energy update, spiritual warfare, protect your soul, all capitals, crystal ball emoji, lightning emoji, crossed hands emoji. Spiritual warfare is a huge topic. I would be wary of going too deep into YouTube videos around this theme, because often you can feed an old trauma wound of paranoia and suspicion and give it a bit of a spiritual wrapping. Very much what we talked about in the live stream only half an hour ago. This idea of spiritual bypassing. You can also make spiritual meaning out of things that aren't spiritual. The paranoid individual, once they become a little bit spiritual and they get a little bit Reiki informed or oracally aligned, they will start to see many spiritual patterns that may or may not be happening, but fundamentally, whether or not you think the government is oppressing you, your neighbor is oppressing you, your mother and your father, your boyfriend and your girlfriend, your children, or some kind of unseen demonic entity, it doesn't necessarily matter. Your bodily sensation is one of being oppressed, one of being constricted, scared, vigilant. Maybe you got on the internet and you're searching like a little rat looking for the demons online, or maybe you're trying to sniff the eye, like you're in like a real ratty consciousness. Again, this is something you might. Oh, I'm not a rat. How dare you? I'm not looking for spiritual cheese. I'm trying to protect my soul. Like, yeah. Also, when you're deep down the rabbit hole, don't clip that. That's what it's like, because there's that paranoid, there's the paranoid, like, skittish element when you get too deep into, oh no, the archons are attacking me. It's the Anunnaki. Like, be careful. You can be informed. You can be aware. You can. I want you to if whether or not spiritual warfare is happening in the context that you're thinking of, I want you to be more like a general 1 mile back from the battlefield rather than being in the trenches yourself. Take that true spiritual detachment and have the ability to know that you are fundamentally protected, you are fundamentally safe, you have the ability to connect with, as we were speaking about earlier, that divine love, that sense of sovereignty and cosmic protection. If you want to go there, you can have that detachment and still perceive, maybe with a bit of a spyglass, right? Oh no, it's the demonic entities over there. Better not go over there. Oh, drink and drugs lowers my vibe, which makes me susceptible. Whew, I'm glad that's happening a mile away. What else? Actually, you know what? I don't need to use my telescope anymore. I'm just going to live my own life. Be careful. Be careful. Genuinely, be careful. Next question. Let's go into it. How, from Danny Boo 07G. How can I make sure someone wants a real relationship before sleeping with them? I get attached too easily, but it feels so awkward to ask about their intentions up front. Any advice on how to vet them? That's a great question. That is a great and complex question. I'm glad that you asked it. It's a painful situation to be in as well. How can I make sure someone wants a real relationship before sleeping with them? You can't. You can't. I'm sorry. Take a moment to pause and be practical. No matter how much of an honest and transparent person you are, as I mentioned earlier, you need to beware of that tendency that good people have to project the same goodness onto the people they meet. Don't go into what I was just theatricizing and become a paranoid individual who's always looking out for the red flags and the worst in people, but simultaneously don't go too far into green flag vision or golden shadow vision and assume the best in people. Understand the mixed intentionality of others. I think realistically, this is where it's really tough, and I want you to really decide what's best for you, especially when it comes to sexual relationships. If you accept that logically and emotionally, there's a certain amount of time that you need to spend with someone, a certain series of different feelings that you need to feel in their company, and a certain sequence of sentences that need to come out of their mouth for you to trust them, to want to be willing to, share in one of the most intimate experiences that you could share with someone and have sex with them. You can only ever be realistically like 90%, 95% on the mark that you are indeed receiving who they actually are at their full depth, even when you've only seen their superficial front. If they've only had 15 hours with you, and they've got a whole life and they've got so much more of themselves that you've yet to see, you can have little intuitive hits of like, there might be a red flag there, or there may be a logical moment of, you know what, like they clearly don't want family, and I really do want family, and they said that, like, they didn't say directly that, let's imagine it's a woman asking the question, and there's a man there. Let's imagine you're both in your 30s, and you want kids and you want family, and that's a huge priority, and that's what a real relationship means to you. A real relationship means I want to date someone who I would maybe marry, maybe not marry, but I want to have children with them. That's what a real relationship is for me now in my 30s. That's my kind of open card. You can present your hand and say, I want a family. Works both ways, men and women, both. I'm just going with a female example here. Woman says, I want a family. First date, maybe the second date, whatever it might be. You haven't slept together yet. They might say, I don't know, I'm considering it. That could be an honest answer. They might say, I definitely don't want a family now. That could be an honest answer. They could say, I absolutely do want children very soon. That could also be an honest answer. Regardless of what their answer is, this is the tough thing. You might have sex and they might decide it's not a physical match. They weren't lying to you in their intention for a real relationship, but there might have been something about the physical chemistry between the two of you that, for whatever reason, was not the right fit for them, in the same way that you obviously have the right and the ability to say, that wasn't right for me. A yes can become a no with repeated experiences. This is the whole idea of informed consent, right? Like in a literal sexual moment, but also maybe, after the third sexual encounter, you realize, they're a bit too much like a jackhammer, or a bit too much like a limp noodle, and oh, I feel like a bit like a jackhammer and limp noodle, and this clearly ain't it, or whatever it might be, or there's something, whatever it might be. I don't need to spell out the birds and the bees for everyone. The intention can be genuine. I want a real relationship, but in certain moments, you might be the one who's saying, I want a real relationship, and you'll cut someone off who also wanted a real relationship, not because it was a conflict between the two of you both wanting a real relationship, and that was the one thing. It might be the fact that you're not compatible. And sometimes there's a level of physical intimacy, quite often actually in these days, where you do need to test things out. And I think disappointingly and difficultly for both men and women, sometimes you can form very intimate sexual connections and just find out that um, those initial romantic projections were quite strong. And even though you all said the right things, it's just not a real thing, is it? It's no one's fault. To be super duper practical before moving on to the next question, if you get a series of red flag warnings that this is someone you shouldn't sleep with, don't sleep with them. Likewise, watch out for your own red flags of, maybe I need to spend 100 hours with someone before kissing them. That's on the extreme end of one spectrum. You get to choose your own boundaries. I'm not saying like you have to go and do things again. You choose your own boundaries, but there's a spectrum of most people's general expectations of how far into dating someone in different cultures around the world before we start physically escalating things. You might find that even in the differences between physical escalation, that actually reveals a character incompatibility. Some people will sleep with someone within 1 hour of meeting them and get married and live happily ever after. Other people will sleep with someone, first date, second date, whatever it might be. It can mean a lot, or it can mean not so much at all. It's the difficulty of relationships, right? To get back to the center of the question, to hopefully give you something final to take with you, how can I make sure someone wants a real relationship before sleeping with them? I get attached too easily, but it feels so awkward to ask about their intentions up front. Any advice on how to vet them? I worry that I may have gone a little bit too deep onto the deep end. Just stop being a coward in the most loving sense possible. Wake up to the bigger truth of what's going on here. You have not got all the years in the world to waste of like, I'm going to pretend that I don't want a real relationship. I might scare them off. Your time is so short. Again, I know for like people in their 30s, they're like, I bloody well know it. I'm already feeling it, right? I'm already feeling it. I know time's short, but your time is so short. Don't, don't, don't censor yourself on those first dates. Again, don't be rude. Don't be abrasive. But come on, like, come on, come on. If you know what you want, it is a duty to yourself to say in a fun way, to say in an open way, this is who I am, and that's fine. If there's a bit of a scarcity mentality with you of like, oh, if I really reveal what I want, then they're going to go away, then that's a different issue to work on. But I encourage honesty. Again, you don't need to say everything all up front. You don't need to share like all of your sexual history and all of your sexual aspirations, all your relationship history and all your relationship aspirations. But what's the point in dating if you're not going to be yourself? Eventually, you're going to be found out anyway. You might as well just be yourself from the first minute. Otherwise, you're wasting everyone's time. And you're missing out on a potentially really good time with someone who really is the right fit for you. So good luck. Looking at the chat. Do I believe in crystals? That is not a question I'm going to answer. Elena says, whatever your mission is, Jordan, it has an unusual sense of timing. Could you please repeat the quote about disintegration and suffering? If you get a chance to read this, I'd love to save it. I have no idea what the quote was. I just made something up. I was speaking at some point about positive disintegration, Dabrowski's theory of positive disintegration. It's gone. I mean, watch the replay. That's all I can say. If at any point in these live streams I say something and it's like, can you repeat that thing? I don't know. I'm not even there to some degree. Like I'm just open. I'm in the flow. Like I said the thing back in that moment. That was when I was talking about it. I advise you go watch the replay and you can catch it from there. Unfortunately, that is my best advice for right now. Hope that helps. Okay. Hey Jordan, I'm 22 from Germany. Hello, guten Abend. And I'm in a phase of finding myself, and I'm always comparing myself to friends of mine and think of me less. And I want to now go to a Kundalini retreat in Bali to get out of my head. And I want to regain confidence, and I'm interested in yoga. And I would say it's a good argument of me to go to this yoga retreat for 3 weeks in Bali in order to grow. Okay, is that a question? Are you seeking my permission for you to go to a yoga retreat in Bali? Are you asking for me whether I think it's a good idea to just take 3 weeks and go and do something you want to go and do? I mean, okay, do you need to quit a job? If not, okay, that's a green flag. Do you have enough money to comfortably be able to afford this? If not, that's a green flag. Is it something you wanted to do for a while? Again, green flag if yes. Is it going to upset some other major area of your life? If it's not going to, then like so many things point towards yes if this is what you want to do. If maybe you don't have maybe supportive friends or family around you that consider this weird because you're 22 and you're in Germany and it's just not a normal thing where you're from. You have you have my permission to go and do this. I spent 2 years living out of a backpack between 21 and 23. Yeah, I was traveling around all of Europe, living out of a backpack, working on farms, learning manual labor, learning how to look after animals and build houses, and like really, really like living off the land kind of stuff. I loved it. Like it was fantastic. And then eventually, I really needed to focus on the books, and I came and built a library, and that's been my life. I and be careful with what I'm about to say. I said, you know what? I'm going to calibrate. I think you're a man. Yeah, you're Jacob. Jacob, you're a man. Man to man, brother. Your life will significantly improve, and you will feel much stronger and much more confident in your decision making when you stop asking other men for their opinions on how you should live your life. You already know. Go with your own decision and enjoy it. I'll leave it there for now. Said in the strongest and hopefully kindest way possible. You've got that. You've got that inside of you. Just yeah. Good luck. Next question, Mr. Dan. Good to see you here, Mr. Dan. Familiar name. How can I heal from grief and depression when the wound is ongoing? Jacob just said, all right, thank you so much. I got it. Good job, Jacob. How can I heal from grief and depression? Mr. Dan says, when the wound is ongoing. I love my alienated daughter and try not to pressure her, but new wounds keep coming and I often feel rejected and triggered. That's really tough. That's really tough. Based on our conversations in previous months, and maybe even previous years, Mr. Dan, you've always struck me as someone who's generally very mindful and very conscious, maybe even to a fault. Um, it's tough when you're multiple years deep into psychologically self-analyzing while also being in a bit of a bleeding stage. To make it broader for everyone listening, if anyone listening is currently going through a situation where you are viscerally self-aware of the psychology and the spirituality and the trauma behind why you are the way you are and why you're feeling the way that you're feeling, and yet the thing is still happening to you, you're still in the situation, it's still the same relationship, what are you meant to do? That's basically what we're talking about here. In Mr. Dan's case, he's in a situation where he has grief and depression in the situation where he's not in contact with his own daughter. Um, my my friend, that is tough. If you want, if you want a spiritual answer, I would advise working along the understanding into acceptance into forgiveness framework. You understand why she is the way she is. That's the first thing. Logical connection. You accept that moment there of stepping from understanding to accepting. That happens more in the heart. You accept that she may never return into contact with you. She's in that. She's doing her own thing for whatever reason. You are in contact, but she's alienated. Okay. What do you mean specifically by alienated? Then, so I can calibrate. If you're in contact but she's alienated, how old is the daughter? How old are you? If you want to give me more context, I can then calibrate specifically. In the meantime, I suppose to finish the point off, if you can go from understanding, I understand why this pain is happening to me, for everyone else listening as well. I understand why I am the way I am. Can I accept that? Is it an acceptable condition in life? Sometimes it won't be. Sometimes you rage against the machine and you need to change something. That's fine. In some situations, you can't change what's happening. Imagine there's something going on with the government or something going on with, again, family members are outside of your control or influence. Can I accept that unworkable situation? And then, ultimately, can I forgive myself or forgive them if it's a hostile situation? That is where peace comes, genuinely, for trauma work, especially if you've got mother wounds or father wounds or strained relationships with family members. I understand why they are the way they are and why I was the way I was. I accept them as who they were and who they are, and myself as who I am and who I was. And I forgive both them and myself, and there's a spaciousness in that. Spaciousness, for sure. Actually filmed episode 100, I believe, of the Inner Work Library series in a church. You can go back on the channel a few years ago, and it was on this theme, understanding acceptance, forgiveness. It was an 800-year-old church, I believe in Wales or somewhere near Wales. I hope that helps. Mr. Dan, I'm going to continue forwards just for now, just so I can get to a few more questions in the final 15 minutes of this live stream. I apologise, but I hope that's enough just for now. I'll see you on more live streams, I'm sure. Or I hope so. That's not for that's. You can join if you want to. You don't have to join. You can. The last time we ever speak, just it's all good by me. So, a few more questions. Let's get them in. Rapid fire questions. Okay, we're gonna do some fun. I'm gonna rehydrate. Let's lock in. If you've been here since the start, what a wonderful Sunday it's been. If you've been here for half an hour or even just 5 minutes, this is your time to mine my mind for all the things that you might possibly want to have answered in about 60 seconds at a time. It's a fun way for me to kind of wrap up the live stream as well. Log in, quick questions, ask me questions if you think I can solve them in about 60 seconds to maybe 2 minutes maximum. Put it in the chat. We're going to do a rapid fire round. If I didn't get to your question before, then please put a question in the chat right now. We're going to go out with a bang. And then I've got a 2-hour self-integration school seminar to teach. On spiritual neurosis and spiritual self-actualization. Week 8 since we launched the school, selfintegrationschool.com. Brand new website. Took me hundreds of hours of my life for just a few minutes of videos. You can scroll them while you lie in bed if you want. Not a question. Do a vid on Rudolf Otto if you haven't already, please. I don't know enough about Rudolf Otto to do a video, I'm afraid. If I knew more about the man, I would feel more confident doing something like that. But I generally try not to speak on things I haven't thoroughly researched. And if I do speak on something that's more conjecture, then I'd let you know, but I'm probably not going to make a full video about it. Sapora asked a question. Good to see you still here, Sapora. Have you been enjoying it? Give my love to your feathered friends as well. Sapora is a big fan of. She's the queen of the swans, queen of the geese. Sapora asks question: What to do? Questions coming in. What to do when you feel bored and don't have any socialization to do for the days? What can you do instead? Sapora, as I've said before, and as I will say again, I think I gave you this advice about 6 months ago. If you are bored because you lack social opportunities, no one is coming to save you and no one is coming to stop you. You are a brilliant young woman. Go and make the friends. I'll keep it brief there. Yeah, trying to be rapid about it got a bit messy. Don't worry, like it's not your fault, but it is your opportunity to change the situation. If you're bored and that feeling like, oh, I wish I had more friends. I wish I had more people. Like it's not gonna. It's adult life is truly like this in every single regard. You can feel a frustrated feeling, and it is your responsibility, by and large, to then find the resolution to that feeling. If you feel lonely, find a way to make more friends. Join online communities, go into in-person places. Like you have that possibility at your fingertips. You can do it. You could really do this. I think that's the advice I gave before, and it's the advice I will give again. Good luck. Sabora, thank you. Next question, we're going to the healing times. Difference between forgiveness and compassion, off the cuff. Okay, so you can have compassion, you can be compassionately understanding of someone's poor behavior and not necessarily forgive them. So this threshold here between understanding into acceptance into forgiveness, compassion can flow all the way up. I can understand with compassion, I can accept with compassion, I can forgive with compassion. Compassion is more of the sentiment, whereas understanding, acceptance and forgiveness are more like states. I'll say it again. The state of understanding, the state of acceptance, the state of forgiveness, they are more like foundations that we walk upon, and when we fall down, the emotions of like I feel good about this, they fall down, but they collapse onto the state that we have achieved. If I've only achieved understanding with my shitty mother, my shitty father, my shitty uncle, my shitty auntie, whoever it might be, you will collapse back down onto understanding, or onto acceptance, or onto forgiveness. Compassion can operate at any of those levels. Get it? Get what I'm saying there? So the way that I would try and aim towards some kind of ultimate resolution is, can you carry compassion from understanding to acceptance to forgiveness? Can you carry even a sense of healthy judgment, healthy discernment, strong boundaries, understanding, acceptance, and forgiveness? That's where I go with that. Hopefully that helps. Rapid fire questions here. Okay. Da-da-da. When are you going to talk about quantum healing psychology? Probably never. That's not what I do on my channel. There are many teachers who are organically and authentically passionate about that work. However, you will see these books over here. There are probably, I don't know, about 15 to 20 books in the library that are on quantum healing psychology and the kind of new age spiritual psychological stuff. But my expertise is really in the more old school somatic psychology, transpersonal psychology, Jungian psychology. I'm very, very into like 1930 to 1990. I think it's anything pre-internet is just mwah. There's different consciousness in that. It's the historian inside of me. I studied history initially, got my history degree, and I applied all that research skill into the old school, the way books are written, the way people thought. I love it. It's so much more engaging than kind of often the buzzword salad that you get in the quantum healing technology space. Casting no shade on any of the popular teachers, but you can see the language patterns, and it gets a bit shallow. It gets a bit, it loses the roots. It's all fruit, no root, quite often, but it is valuable. But it's not my area of expertise, so you have to find another teacher for quantum healing. I'm the guy that you come to for the old dusty book from 1978. And you're like, how did he find this one? That's quite good. I bet there's another one like it. Yep, there's 104 in the self-integration school curriculum. Average publication date is like 1986 or something like this. Anyway, next question from a grumpy Australian lady. Grumpy Australian lady. Okay. Hi, Jordan. Interested in your perspective on whether we can even love deeply, hope deeply, and participate fully in life without requiring certainty that we will receive what we hope for. Oh, what a profound question. Let's try and answer this in 2 minutes. I'm interested in your perspective on whether we can even love deeply, hope deeply, and participate fully in life without requiring certainty that we will receive what we hope for. So you're asking, can I participate in life and fall in love with life itself if I'm not certain of where it will take me? Absolutely, you can. You would be delusional Delulu, as they say these days, I think. Maybe. Kids say Delulu these days. Is that a millennial thing or a Gen Z thing? You would be Delulu to expect that you could have certainty in relationship or career or health or anything to do with life. It is a false security that will hold you back. You can fall wildly in love with the unpredictability and yet also somewhat predictable nature of the seasons of life, the seasons of the world, and the relationships that you hold. You can basically work in probabilities and love the probabilities of life without needing the certainty. It is a fool's game to need that certainty. If you are requiring certainty from yourself to get into that new relationship or leave the current relationship or start that new business, start that new creative project, ambitions die on the rocks of certainty. You need to sail along the sea of probability and having hunches, having intuitions, having good guesses, good feelings about where things might go. Just go out into the waves. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity. I hope that helps. That is how I try and live my life while still, you can, if we're going to go with the ocean faring, sea voyaging metaphor, get yourself a map, get yourself a good ship, get yourself a compass, get yourself some kind of crew if you need a crew. But you can't predict the waves. The waves are there for a reason. And also, you know what? If the waves were flat, you would not enjoy the voyage. It would get boring, and you wouldn't have enough contrast to actually be able to learn anything new about yourself or anyone else. It would just be way too predictable. It's one of the reasons we don't like AI, actually, generally speaking. AI, large language models, they have predictable syntax and sentence structures. It feels soulless. Soul is in the unpredictability of things. Final few questions now. Hi, Jordan. How are you? Can't stay. Just wanted to say hi. Diane, good to see you here. I'm doing very well. I spoke about myself at the very start of the live stream, so if you are interested in a kind of timestamp review, check out the first 20 minutes or so of the live stream once it's posted. I have really enjoyed this live stream. Final few questions. Who keeps you accountable other than books and the self-integration community? I'm accountable to my higher self. Oh, what a thing for me to say. Mr. Jordan Thornton in a work. I am accountable to my higher self, God as my witness. And you know what? I'm playing around because I'm sleep deprived and I'm riding the wave. I will be sincere with this. What keeps me accountable? I know in crushingly, witheringly, painfully predictable detail that if I reach the end of my youth and the end of my peak mental faculties, maybe in my 60s or my 70s, end of my youth, right? And I haven't applied myself, and that means so much to me. If I haven't applied myself, what I know my gifts to be, what I know my capacities to be, what I know my potentials to be, I will have a horrific death. Kind of dark, but it's true. I know that I will be tortured in my final decades of life if I didn't fucking make the most of this opportunity. And that drives me with such a passion that I cannot contain. My goodness, it hits me every single day. It's like, I've got 14 or 15 hours today. What could I do? What could I do to apply myself? And what's crazy is that the more books that I read, the more gravitas that I build around me, the more resources that I have, the more the pressure builds because you're like, okay, Mr. Accountable, Mr. Intentional, what are you going to do with all this power? What are you going to do with all this time? What are you going to do with this money? What are you going to do with all this consciousness? It's a wild ride. I don't necessarily wish it upon everyone, but I am so mortality aware for well over a decade. Like memento mori, death awareness. Anyone who's close to me, even some of my self-integration school students, they will vouch for the fact that frequently I will just be very aware that I'm dying, very aware that time's limited, very aware that there goes a week, there goes a month, there goes a year. And I simultaneously feel the pain and the regret of the possible future of being less than what I could have been and wasting, God willing, maybe in my 90s, maybe in my hundreds if I reach that far with medical technology. The frustration of being 102 years old and not having the energy that I have now to be on 4.5 hours sleep and speak for like 8 hours on stream and be foggy in my mind. What a fucking waste. And that's not said with anger towards myself. That's said with that like, oh, what a gift. What a gift. I owe it to him. I really owe it to him. And I'm aware that I'm also in a very privileged position in terms of the time of history that I was born into, the fact that I'm a white English man and I have a certain intelligence, genetically speaking. All these things are privileges. I've worked very hard, very, very hard compared to my background. First person from a family to go to university. I wasn't raised in a culture like this at all. I saw no books being read in my family home. But still, there's the privilege of being born at this time, and everyone who's here on this live stream, there is a true privilege of being here at this intersection between the old world and the new world as artificial intelligence becomes a dominant theme and the world collapses from individual cultures into global cultures, and identity and persona is really the key questions that we're asking of who am I now? What is sentience doing? That is the time that we live in. It's a great opportunity, and I wouldn't want you to be blind to the fact that time is very short. Just think how quickly this year's gone already. 6 months already have gone. Did you apply yourself from a self-compassionate, self-respecting place, or have you spat on the possibility? Grumpy Australian lady says, "Thank you for your perspective. Yeah, the more I live, the more I can summarize my life as, quote, not exactly what I thought it's going to be." And that's the beauty and mystery of it, I guess. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Fun vibe. Okay, I've got 14 minutes to my seminar. I think realistically, need a bit of a bathroom break, get back in. Two questions. Let's do it. We're going for Jaden Parker. Hello, Jordan. How can I follow a path that is my own in the world without losing myself to others, people, wants, needs, and expectations? Jaden, I think I just answered your question. I hope so. Anyway, I hope you're paying attention. Then that is the way to live your own path. Really, really feel into what would happen if you're in your dying decade and you wasted the opportunity in the best sense possible. Martin, thank you for bumping yourself up. Assertiveness is rewarded in this regard. He said, my question was right before Jaden. I like it. I like someone who raises their hand like that. Any tips on switching your psychology? See, this is the thing. This is the thing. So Martin respectfully is like, oi, what about my question? And I'm like, you know what? I respect it. I respect the hustle. I'm going to answer Martin's question. Martin, you're the final question in the stream. Let's go into it. Martin, any tips on switching your psychology/mindset from being a worker of over 30 years as a teacher, from working middle-class parents to an entrepreneur, building a private practice in the mental health field? Okay, I've worked with a few clients privately who are in their 50s and their 60s, and they get to a point where, depending on the level of success that they've had, so some people, they're in millionaire status and they're kind of financially okay, at the very least, quite a good situation to be in. They got their retirement sorted, and now they've retired early, whatever it might be, and they've got more juice left to squeeze. They want to do something. In that situation, you have to ask yourself the question of, well, what do I really want to do now that my time is especially limited? But also the resource side of things is really a question that you need to ask. If you are financially set, Martin, you have a lot more freedom to experiment with the creativity of starting a business. If you aren't financially set, this is where things are pretty difficult, practically speaking. To start private practice these days as a therapist, coach, counselor, or someone who's doing something similar to what I'm doing is really quite difficult. We live in a very social media world, and if you haven't built the skill set of social media and online digital marketing and all these things, it realistically, summarizing a couple dozen mentorships and student journeys, you need to be prepared that it'll take a year or a year and a half going your own way to actually get to a point where you could pay the bills from it within this profession. There are some superstar teachers out there that really figure out the algorithm, they figure out how to get clients, maybe they do the old school, like brick and mortar style approach. But if you're used to having a paycheck and you're used to being a teacher, and now you're going to go down the entrepreneurial pathway, not only is it difficult within this particular profession, there is a tremendous psychological difference between the employee mindset and the entrepreneurial mindset. I've actually come into conflict with myself because I'm mostly in an entrepreneurial mindset, and then I sometimes have to get into an employee mindset with myself as my own employee when I'm doing my own like editing work, for example, and I come into conflicts because I'm a pretty fucking awful employee. Like, you're seeing me at my best. Try and put me in a job where I've got a 9 to 5, and it's like, hello, boss. I'm gonna check in. Buzz. Oh my god, boom! Like shoot my brains over the books. I could not do it. I'd be good at jobs because I get angry at them. Like, I'm just going to do this really productive. I'm going to clean these toilets. One of my first jobs at university was scrubbing toilets for like 2 years. I was scrubbing toilets and cleaning things. I was listening to like the 4 Hour Work Week podcast. I'm going to scrub the toilet really efficiently. Going to clean this room. It's meant to take 90 minutes. Do it in 30 minutes, and then sit on the bed and make some notes about how I can start my business. I'm a really bad employee. Martin, give me a bit more context, okay? A final minute here. You said, "Thank you, Jordan. I'm 57. I understand what you mean by being aware of your mortality. I'm working on social media and writing a book as we speak. I have a couple of years before actual retirement." Okay, Martin, you're in a good position. Some of the men that I've worked with around age, let's call it like 50 to 65, you've still got enough energy and you've still got enough possibility to really be able to make a big thing that could go for decades ahead. If you are working on the therapeutic professions, it's arguably the case that someone who is in their 50s to their 70s is in their peak of their therapist career. Most of the books that are written here, I mean, Robert Augustus Masters, he's a great example of this. I probably wrote the age that he wrote the book at the front cover. It was 1984 was when he was writing this. Did I write the book? Oh, here we go. Look, there's something that I do. It's a fun little behind the scenes. Quite often, when I am reading books, I will look at the author's birth date and the age they were when they wrote it, because part of my golden shadow vision is I wonder if there's a pattern in the quality of work that is produced by people within this profession at a certain age in their life. Because I'm only 30 years old, and this man was 63 years old when he was writing this book. I believe that Robert Augustus Masters, this is his most popular book and his most successful book. 63 years. I would double my life and add 3 more years and not pass it on to the next person until I'd be at the age where he wrote this book. My goodness, that gives me a sense of, okay, there's time in this. If I was 57 years old, I would basically give myself the pat on the back of, you know what, I've probably learned enough. I am the man that I am. I'm certain about my identity, more or less. Of course, we're always changing. And just have that confidence and bravado about you that it's your one life. It's really like you've got a good decade to build something here. You can do it slowly, you can do it patiently, but you really do have the possibility, Martin. And yeah, it'd be fun, I suppose, as a little bonus, like Easter egg of the self-integration school and the inner work library. If you were to walk into my library tonight and then like open up the pages and see in the front covers, you see all these birth dates and how old people were when they wrote the books, because I really find it inspiring, especially as I've been frustrated. You know, imagine like 5 years ago, I'm towards the start of the research project. I'm 25 years old. I'm like, my golden shadow vision, these books that I could write, the collection at my house. Like, yeah, it's all true. In your 40s and your 50s, right now, building a digital curriculum. By necessity, Martin, this is my example. By necessity, I got into this because I wanted to write books and coach people. Those are my two things. I wanted to write books and I wanted to have actual relationships, doing actual work with people in real time. This is the thing I wanted. 4 years of YouTube. Still some one-to-one mentorships. 4 years of YouTube. Some community posts, some social media posts, some newsletters here and there, but not really anymore. And then from YouTube, okay, digital curriculum, self-integration school. It turns out I had to become a teacher and a speaker before I can fully become a writer. I have technically started my first book, but that is way off in terms of what's going to happen. In fact, actually, a little bit of a fun kind of Easter egg upon Easter egg closure. My self-integration students are writing essays every month now, and I'm pretty sure that if all works out, fingers crossed, prayers in the chat, like the live stream, add your energy into this. If I can figure out the technical, not-for-profit, self-publication qualities, hopefully by the end of the year, I will have a 40 to 60 essay volume, self-integration school essays, self-integration psychology, and for the next decade be releasing maybe twice per year anthologies of my students' work and some of my essays in there. And it turns out that what I thought would be, my name on the front cover, maybe a big smiling picture of me with all my books, is actually the teacher who stands back a little bit and says, here are 50 of my students' essays and 5 of my own. And that's in process right now. The first anthology is privately released to my students inside the community, and I'm working on making that more digitally available. And it's funny. You can get the right impression, but sometimes you give it the wrong clothing. That's the funny thing about intuition. The right impression, the wrong clothing. You got the essence, but the materialization, you were a little bit off. I thought it was books. Turns out it was making an entire curriculum, and not only an entire curriculum, as you see on selfintegrationschool.com, the largest holistic psychology curriculum on the internet that's ever been attempted. So I can eventually write books where I'm the editor, have a few essays, mainly my students, to then maybe late 30s, early 40s, actually start writing my books. But at that point, going on 2 decades of experience to then write a really good first book. That's my plan. Let's end it there. I've got 5 minutes until my Self-Integration School USA seminar. If you've enjoyed the chat, give me some pine tree emojis in the chat. I can start packing up and getting ready. Yeah. We're back. We're back. That was pretty good first live stream. Pretty good. Pretty enjoyable. Got my laptop. Gonna get going. See how much we've got on this light. We've got 1.5 hours left. Let's turn that one off. Make sure the students still can see me on this light. If you enjoyed this live stream, I will be back, not next week because it's reflection week and I'm going offline because I haven't taken a weekend off in 14 months. I'm taking a proper day off in like a very, very long time. But the heart is open again. I will be back on YouTube very soon. And for old time's sake, you know what's going to happen. End of the live stream. Martin, thank you for the $5. I appreciate that a lot. That was a good timing, wasn't it? I was going. It's not the amount of money. It's a thought that counts. Genuinely, I'll put that towards the next book. I really appreciate it. Genuinely. I've got a really good feeling. I'm going to be back. There's going to be so many YouTube videos on the way. I've got 40-minute, 30-minute curriculum videos I'm going to be sharing. I've filmed so many videos in the Self-Integration School. Once I can figure out how to put them on YouTube, give you kind of like samples and previews and give you all this. It's all on the way. It's on the way. I see some pine trees in the chat. Martin, thank you. I see Jacob still here. Thank you for your value. Healing Times, so enjoyed. Sephora Pine Tree. Elizabeth Pine Tree, you and your work is amazing from the Healing Times. Thank you, everybody. I've got 4 minutes until my seminar, and I try and start the seminar just a few minutes early. So I will see you very soon. Be well, look after yourself, and remember, death approaches, and you owe it to your future self to apply yourself today, tomorrow, and for the month ahead in the best way possible, in the most fiercely loving way possible. I believe in you. I'll see you soon.